Thank you so much, Andre. Colleagues, we then come to the next speaker, Chris Bosch. Now, Chris, many speakers today used to work for Eskom. He also used to work for Eskom. He's moved out of Eskom, and I'm very glad that I see that he's now working for energy solutions for the agricultural sector. Now, in my other life, I'm chairman of Astral, which is a chicken company, and I cannot tell you how devastating the impact of load shedding is on the chicken industry. It's not the egg industry. You know, hens will lay eggs even though the lights are off. It makes it a bit more difficult for them to lay eggs if the lights are off, if they're not warm. But if you're busy, you know, we slaughter 5.5 million chickens a week. And if those chickens are there and they're running and they're busy being slaughtered, or they must now be deboned, and then the power goes off for 2.5 hours, you have to throw it away. That's the one thing. The other thing is that you get behind. The market says we want chicken. We say, well, we had load shedding. We couldn't slaughter chickens, and so the chickens that are not slaughtered are growing too big to be slaughtered because they go longer than the 32 days that we have. So all I can say, Chris, I'm very glad that you're looking at the agriculture industry.
Thank you, Dr. Yelov, and distinguished guests present here today. My brief background and what I'm going to present to you today is actually what's happening currently in probably one of the smallest local municipalities in South Africa that should provide a window of what's happening on the ground, what's happening grassroots. Now, on that slide that you can see, what is the national energy crisis? Everybody listened to Mr. Oberholzer this morning, and we all think that the national energy crisis in South Africa has to do with only Eskom. It has a lot more to do with everybody than just Eskom. And I think hopefully after today's talk, you're going to have a better idea of what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about our entire vertical chain, our vertically integrated energy delivery chain is to a large extent broken. And you've heard confirmation of that with various speakers, the mayor here in Cape Town also saying how much money they are spending on maintenance of infrastructure and that they're not spending enough. And that is actually common cause across South Africa. So even if Eskom were to have enough generation capacity, it would still not solve South Africans' problems in totality. You've heard about the transmission grid that was constrained, the municipal infrastructure that's dilapidated in a number of instances, incompetent staff. No materials. When last have you walked into a municipality storeroom? There's no material in there, bar a few old meters that were taken out perhaps 20 or 30 years ago that's lying around. The administration of municipalities, the revenue engine that actually has to collect the money for Eskom, for purposes of growth, is in disarray. I don't know, the other day somebody called me and they got 3 municipal accounts, 3 names on one address. How's that even possible? How do we actually collect that? How do we actually collect revenue if we've lost complete trust in our administrative systems? And there's a lot of communities paying still, but we see them paying under duress. They're not happy. Are you going to be happy if you know you're paying money, but what's happening with the funds? A municipality now in the northern parts in Limpopo, we assisted them and with a few small tweaks, a little bit of money spent in the right place, a little bit of money on service delivery, we increased revenue by I think about 40% in the space of 3-4 months. Now, any clever person would have taken that extra revenue and invested it back into their service delivery, into their municipal infrastructure. We actually had to go to court to get an allowance so that we can actually provide service delivery. So how does that work? So how long are people going to take before they also stop paying under duress? And it is an issue. How can you actually say to Eskom, you know what, we're not paying you yet because we have a dispute on interest? Well, my friend, you know, if you actually just paid your account, there would have been no dispute on any interest. That concept is kind of just ignored. Normal civil business practices is simply being ignored in the governmental space. And that is part of our entire vertically integrated energy chain that is broken. So how long is it going to take for our businesses and the rest of the people? Because, you know, I wanted to say to the mayor of Cape Town, he's quite chuffed saying that there's going to be a lot of influx into the Western Cape and in Cape Town specifically. That is so, but how long? Because remember, this is the interim holding station, Cape Town. From here, people then immigrate elsewhere. They manufacture elsewhere. So at the end of the day, we need to fix and come up with a solution, not just to actually host people from the rest of South Africa. Because if they come here from the rest of South Africa, they're perhaps not coming for good. They're coming for an interim period. So we need to fix South Africa Incorporated exactly as the previous speakers have spoken about. You know, and it's all good and well. We in the commercial, we in the industrial sector, we in business, but we have staff. Do you, working for a big company that has its own power generation facilities, its own water plant, its own sewer plant, everything is working, solid waste is being treated, but when you go home this evening, you're coming home to your wife that had no water, the sewer is running in the street, the garbage is lying in the street. Who wants to live under those conditions? Nobody. So we need to look at all of it, and the report that government actually tabled themselves said there, without water, electricity, sewer, solid waste, daily life is unviable. So we actually need to look at that as the national crisis. Electricity and energy is part of that national crisis. Now, there's the reality. This slide is slightly older, but I simply expect that line to have continued deteriorating. And if we're sitting in the Western Cape, we say economic growth, no, we're happy, we're selling houses, we're okay. We're actually not okay. We're bluffing ourselves to think that we are okay in the Western Cape. We're just behind the trend, that's all. But we're following the trend. One portion of the country cannot jump the trend. Now, look at that little block I want to show you there in the right-hand corner. In August 2011, in that small little town, the municipality that we're going to talk about this morning, when we arrived in August of 2011, they used 15.8 MVA, small compared to towns. August 2022, which is now 2 months ago, 13.4 MVA. So that's a drop of 15.6% in the demand. That's a good thing. 15.6% in the demand is a good thing. But look at what happened to the energy use, 8.32% drop. And that's probably one of the lowest drops in the Free State. Now, in this municipality of Mafube, and you should actually try that, Google Frankfurt, go on to Property 24, Google anything, find properties to buy in Frankfurt. You'll be amazed because you might only come up with 1 or 2 properties that's for sale. Why? Because the electricity in Frankfurt is working. That's how conditioned we've become. The water there's no water, and the sewer is running into the Vaal River, and the rest of the people in Joburg is drinking that water. But because electricity is always kind of on when there's no load shedding, and the electricity supply is there, people are actually becoming wealthier in a town like Frankfurt because the house price has just gone up. And there is nothing to buy. So we're talking about those, I think Mr. Bay said 15 million or 25 million potholes. Well, there's 5 of them. Those are the 5 potholes that we just took in one picture. If we are looking and we are saying we don't fix municipalities and small towns, Eskom is not going to get the money to actually pay for all the loans that they are engaging in to actually provide electricity in South Africa. This negative spiral of ours is going to continue. Simple answer, and you've heard it from previous speakers already this morning. There is a simple answer. Just make the problem smaller. We're all looking at South Africa Inc. as a massive, actually nearly a failed type state. But if we look at bringing it closer to home, look at our town. What can we do in our town? What can we do in perhaps once we've fixed our town? What do we do with the town next door? Can we help them? What about the town just after that? If communities actually break down this massive problem and look at what we can do as small communities, that's the way to look at it. You know, there's that saying that says, how do you eat an elephant? You know, bit by bit. That's how you eat an elephant, and that's how we're going to fix South Africa's problem, is we're going to fix it bit by bit. And what's important in community solutions, there's no right or wrong in a community solution. Communities will get together, see what their strengths are, and actually play towards their strengths to fix. Is it electricity? Is it water? Is it sanitation? Doesn't matter where they start fixing it. That's the important thing. And if somebody can do nothing else, then, and he has a bucky and a spade, well, then he can fix a pothole. And I think that's how we're going to slowly start fixing South Africa bit by bit. Just by reducing our problem and seeing a smaller problem and fixing the smaller problem. Not by looking at saying, you know what, I'm not even going to work today because it's probably going to be load shedding and Eskom has to fix the problem first, then I will actually get off my behind and do something in my town. And that's totally the wrong way of looking at it. Now, if we see community activism, communities realizing that now we have to get involved. It's no longer whether government permits us to become involved, whether the municipality likes us attending municipal meetings. It's now an issue of we are going to become involved. And just some of this is just a few. This is not an exhaustive list. There's a lot of community engagements that's currently going on. Save Ngwate is one of them. If you Google Save Ngwate, they're sitting with something like 3,500 members that were raised in the spate of, was it 5 weeks? So people are now actually saying enough is enough. Maluti Apofong was there, Cederberg is the political party. First time I hear a political party paying for another political party's candidate with the same values of just focusing on fixing the community. Because that's what we're forgetting. We need to fix our communities, the people that actually need the services. And if we don't do that, if that need for change, like the Mafube Business Forum puts it, you know, if that doesn't change, these service delivery protests, of which there were 900 now some time ago over a period of a couple of months, that is going to actually break the little bit that's still working. And we don't want that. So if we can get constructive, part of our communities. So, what have we achieved? Why is house prices actually rising in a place like Frankfurt? Let's have a look at what we, as a private sector business, with certain capabilities, joining a community, Community support. With community support, what have we accomplished? Firstly, you can actually have a look. We paid the municipality for doing we actually paid the municipality to just not be visible or be involved in anything. That's the royalty we paid them. Just take the money. There's 22 million rand that we paid you for doing absolutely nothing. Just try and stay out of our life, please. Secondly, we fixed the infrastructure. Remember, there's about 14,000 customers there, 13,000 customers that's getting electricity. We spent close on to 120 million rand just on the electricity infrastructure. The infrastructure now is working. People are actually getting a better service than in any of the metros. Luckily, the Cape Town mayor isn't here. How many queries did we resolve in that period? 94,462 queries, each one with a reference number, traceable, date, time, cell phone number. Because what happens is if you have a problem, send it by WhatsApp, SMS, or email, or telephone, and you get a reference number back. And after the technicians have actually addressed your problem, you get a call back to say, sir, ma'am, are you happy? Is your problem resolved? And only then is the ticket closed. And that happened in 95,000 instances. Rural paid Eskom 710 million rand over the last 10 years, 11 years. What did rural not do the last 3 years? We're no longer paying the municipality's portion because the municipality has simply stopped paying for all their responsibilities, their FBE, the sewer works, the water works. They just don't pay. So that's government on government debt. But everybody else that uses electricity's account is up to date. Now, point number 6, and I'm going to get a few takers on that. Because remember, if you don't walk around with a baseball bat, or you don't take everybody to court, you won't get your money. Not so. Or if you don't disconnect everybody the whole time, you won't get your money. Which is untrue. In the last 11 years, we only wrote off 65 instances of bad debt that was written off, which is negligible. I think there was just one amount which was kind of high. The rest were all titbits amounts. There was one amount of probably about 200,000 rand with a few other issues involved there that we're still resolving. But 65 instances over a period of 11 years. And that's private sector that was involved. The technical and non-technical losses together, in other words, whatever anybody is stealing or what goes missing in the transformers or the power lines, we are actually metering from the main sub, all the feeders on the medium voltage networks, right up to every transformer, right up to every bundle conductor leaving every transformer to the meters in the houses. And that's around 5%. We breached the 5% mark, which is actually, if you look at what the meter accuracy is, 0.5%, 1%, 2%, that 5% now actually starts to become an immaterial number. What it actually says is that everybody in the most poor municipality in South Africa pays for all their electricity consumption because they are serviced. Simple. Now, any banker, and that's what people don't want to believe me, bankers, I hate bankers. I'm very sorry to say that, but I hate bankers. And I never wear a suit. This is the first time when I saw everybody's picture. I was the only guy with a selfie. I think there was one person on a selfie. I see you also cleaned up quite nicely, Percy. So, you know, we have to look like this, otherwise people don't take us seriously. Normally I have my safety boots on and the overall pants. And that's how we do things. But ultimately, Your technical, your non-technical losses, people pay. We have not got a criminal population in South Africa. I think we have the best population in the world. Ask me, 1 o'clock on a Saturday night when the rain is raining and it's howling, and it's a place there in Marokolong 1, way north, other side of Ellisras on the border, and you're busy fixing cables which the weather has actually, lightning that broke the cables, corrugated sheets that cut the bundle conductors. When you fix those there at night, and you see how people that have nothing bring you their last cool drink, their last slice of bread to actually help and give something for the effort that they see. That is the picture that bankers should actually see in South Africa. Because if they see that, they're going to fund the right projects. They are going to fund community projects. Now all that they want is they want a government guarantee, and they want a, where's this and that, and where's the cash. But at the end of the day, the fiber of South Africans is something that I have never, ever seen anywhere in the world, and we have traveled. And my kids have grown up in a township when they were not even walking. So we understand the moral fiber in South Africa. So all we need, we have a concession area that's been going for about 12 years. Eskom is supplying electricity to customers. Those are the only existing customers that Eskom is supplying, some of the agricultural producers in those areas that we don't supply. And Eskom is battling to supply. There's a small portion in town that Eskom has supplying a township area where the service delivery has deteriorated to such an extent that that small area of that township is now actually overloading the 2.5 MVA transformers. We're still kind of selling the same kilowatt hours, but at a much reduced demand. But the Eskom area is not being serviced. So what do the guys do? They stop complaining and they bypass their meters. So if it's free, it's okay if service delivery is bad. Not so. But that is not South African. That is by need. That is not because we are bad. And there's that one little sign there. That happened on this Saturday morning, 1 o'clock this past Saturday morning. We got this WhatsApp from a community member. Can you believe, and if we ask, there's a lot of mayors and municipal managers here, can you guys at least also get on board and say, if somebody calls me at 12 minutes past 1 on a Saturday morning without supply, are they actually serviced? And we can say, yes, they are serviced. And there was just one. There's a whole host of them because this happens often. Our staff are dedicated. They come from the community. They service the community. They understand what's going on. Now, the next one. Look at that graph. How can you run a business, run a town, run your welding works if that is the supply that you actually have? All those green drops are all the load shedding instances. You can't operate. It's just physically impossible to operate. So the status of Mafube today, if we look at the status of Mafube, and we actually thought about this tree example and took some care to put the example together. The first fundamental is you need electricity is first world. If we go and we shop at Checkers 60 minutes, we go onto the website, click, 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 and 60 minutes later, or 65 minutes later, our package is delivered and we get our food. Simple. Now, if everybody does this, why in a municipality do I still need to go to the municipal offices to sort out my electricity issue? Why do I need to go and stand in a queue to sort out a water connection problem? Why can't I take my app on my phone and if I have my water meter, take a photo of it, it automatically goes to the municipality, it goes into their billing system. They have GPS coordinates. They can match where you took the photo as pretty much kind of where it is. The municipality doesn't even have to pay somebody 18 rand a meter reading for somebody to sit under a tree and fill out the book, which means nothing in any case, and your credibility is gone. How is it possible, it's 2022, that, and just as a, you don't have to stick up your hand, but I think there isn't one municipal representative here today that can say their billing system and their prepaid system, they can see all the facts and the figures by the hour together, plus what they are using from Eskom. Who can say that? We're in 2022, guys, not 1987. Yet we don't know, because we have a service provider doing the prepaid works. And that service provider, how do we know that all our money is actually coming into our bank account? That ghost vending is perpetrated by who? Nobody knows who collects electricity money, but it doesn't go to the municipality. It's actually happening every day. So your systems, your information capability to go first world is the bedrock. Then your knowledgeable and competent staff. Thirdly, we go up policy certainty and clear guidelines. Everybody must just know what the rules are. If they know what the rules are, they'll abide by the rules. Remember, South Africans are law-abiding. Apartheid showed that, and the period post-apartheid showed that. We're not talking about the couple of thousand out of 60 million that are just plain corrupt. We're talking about South Africans. Just show us where the rules are and we will follow. Fast and efficient service delivery. If my electricity is off and you come and fix it, why would I have to bypass my meter? Doesn't come into it. Quality network in good standing. Electricity, water, sanitation, doesn't matter. Then the continuity of supply is the tree. That's the thing that Eskom needs to fix. But while Eskom is fixing the tree, there's a lot of the layers that we can actually also get in place. And once the continuity of supply with Eskom and with what we're planning, we're going to show you now, what will happen with the tariffs. Tariffs will become more economical. Economic tariffs will lead to growth. That's exactly what we're after. So, what's our plan for assisting Eskom and doing our bit in our small, teeny-weeny little community? Because the community is so small and our maximum demand is about 21 megawatts that we have available from Eskom. What can we really do? So we said, listen, let's rather go slightly bigger. All the commercial farmers, we now have 17 of the mega farmers in that portion of the Free State that are shareholders in this community business. 17 of them that didn't express their confidence in the venture. They didn't express that they would be interested and that it's a good idea. These are 17 farmers in their khakis, in their old Land Cruiser, and they took cash out of their pocket and they put it into this venture. How's that for commitment? Because what do they want? They want the ammonia for fertilizer. What's happened now with what Russia has been doing and that term weaponizing energy, it means that the ammonia prices in South Africa have gone from $250 to $1,700 or $1,600 a ton. Crazy. On $1,000 a ton, our project works very well. So now we go and we say, well, we need about 25 megawatts of electricity just for our ammonia. To make ammonia, we have to have hydrogen. Hydrogen drives the ammonia process. So if we put in there, you can see, we put 80 megawatts of solar, 40 megawatts of wind, that's 120 megawatts of renewable. Now we need that little anchor for the time being. So we know we're going to go storage, a gigawatt hours of storage with molten salt. But the abrasiveness of the tubes is still slightly an issue. We're working on that so that we don't have to replace it. So perhaps gas could work. Your pebble bed reactor is absolutely spot on. And all the farmers in that entire area, if I ask a farmer, and that's what Mr. Uber also said, if he comes to Tannie Bessie and he says, Tannie Bessie, we're going to build a line there, she takes out the gun and she aims at it, at the Eskom guy. Why? Because the Eskom guy, as he's driving into the farm, he throws his KFC out the window on their farm. And then they wonder, why are people upset with Eskom? Or with a municipal technician for that matter? So we go to Tannie Bessie and we say, Tannie Bessie, can we build a power line on the farm? And she says, Chris, wherever, waar wil jy hom bou? Sê vir my waar jy hom wil bou? Then I go to Martha and I say to Martha, Martha, can you please, your shack here is going to be under the line. And she says, Meneer Chris, ek skuif hom vir jou. Why? Because something happens. There's service delivery, there's commitment. But that happens on a small scale. So if we can, as a town, decide with all the town people with means are now shareholders in the venture, and those people with means to sort out a line route, here in Mugopong, for those of you that don't know, it's where Fenter Trailers started their manufacturing life. We're looking for a dam. So the farmer calls me, he says, Chris, come and have a look. Can you guys use this area as a dam? And then I said to him, listen here, this is amazing. We have a 200-meter head to the bottom. 200-meter head for a battery. He says, listen, you guys can have it. This is going to be our community project. He said, by the way, don't you want a few hectares for PV panels? He said, if you can build it here, I'd be very pleased. But if you really want me to take out that nice vegetation, I'll do that also. I'll clean it for you. That's what we're forgetting. That's what bankers don't see. That's what we need. So we have all these suppliers. We're not going to say we're greening Little Mafube because it can't afford it. We're bringing in another product that we are manufacturing for the community, which suddenly now doubles or triples our electricity requirement in that area. The influx of people, how many wives, how many shopping centers are going to actually come in place with it? It's tremendous. So where are we? That's where we are. The green is all in place. Government here on the community side, there's green shoots, I must say. It is as if people are now pushing the local government representatives into a direction. On the other side, when we say we want to build hydrogen and ammonia solutions, all the big guys from Germany, everybody gives you a nice brochure and they say, oh, they have it as standard. Start asking questions about, just tell me what that size is of that footprint, please, and then that's where it stops. They can't answer you. Which means everybody has an idea. Very few people actually, I think, have a solution. We have a need. We cannot find a solution. That's why we have it in yellow. We have an idea, but we can't find it. Finance, obviously, we're all a bunch of family businesses like ours. Is 31 years old. We still have the same name, still the same shareholders. Nobody wants to help us. Same as the agri guys, the agricultural producers, family businesses. Nobody wants to help us. So, what's the goal that we have? Villiers, 120 megawatts of PV and wind, gigawatt hour of molten salts, 25 megawatt steam turbine, which means we can operate off the grid. That steam turbine gives us the oomph to keep our grid stability, which means we can drop that Eskom connection. Mugopong would be exactly the same. The only difference is we don't need molten salts because we have a huge dam. We have 200 meters of head that we can actually add PV, pump it up in the daytime and run it down at night. And if it's rainy, the dam there is now so big we can probably go for 4 or 5 days, which is exactly what we're looking at. Then 3, 4, all of them the same until we get to our mega project in Saldanha. All the land we've also bought. Ocean access we have bought. Pipeline routes we've negotiated. But we need to start somewhere. Where we're starting in Villiers. Same thing in Saldanha. Also the community is part and parcel of our project. What's going to be one of the major things that we're going to put in Saldanha is fresh water. There isn't water. So first of all, let's make the water for the hydrogen. And once we have the water, half of that water goes back into the community agri. We have a little water board, or shall we say a water use association in terms of the new legislation. So again, all we're doing, because it takes time to build the first one. The second one is a lot easier and cheaper. By number 5, we've brought down the costs probably by half. So what do we need to succeed? And this is the last slide. We need just a little bit of bandwidth and flexibility from government and from local authorities and from Eskom, provincial government, to say, okay, if you guys have got something that looks as if there's a bit of common sense, a bit of thought, there's a bit of means in it, just like in our Mafube project. A year ago, there was nothing. But now we have operational PV plants in excess of 100 million rand that's built and operating, supplying 20% of our entire need. So we've reduced Eskom's consumption by 80%, just by the PV that we've installed in our community structure. 100 million, the first million I always thought was very difficult. This first 100 million, I think, is very difficult. We own the land, we own the farms, we own the top structures. We've fixed all the infrastructure that's feeding into town, so we have stable grid connections. So to duplicate that, what do we now need? A little bit of government assistance, not in money. Civil organizations and foundations to keep the pressure on public institutions so that communities can actually get on with it. And then thirdly, how would we know, running around in our overall pants and our khakis and growing food for South Africa and keeping the lights on in our small little communities, where are we going to get the funding from the international organizations, because we can't get it locally? Locally, as a family business, how do you have 51% of your family business BEE? And then everything snowballs from there. That's an issue. So there's how we don't know whether it's the right way. We don't know whether this is going to be successful. But what we can tell you is we're going to continue with this until we get somewhere. And we've already gotten somewhere. People are talking, we've done. With very little resources, we're doing. And we hope that this can actually snowball. We need a lot of these community-based organizations. Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, Northern KwaZulu-Natal. This is what we need. We need to say, councillor, listen here, just you go and attend to council matters and you leave our land for us. Just go and break what you want to break there, just for the time being. And later on, come and work with us. See how we do it. Because each one of these projects that we're putting in renewables, we're creating an industrial development zone right next to the PV. Why? Because we want to supply those industrial development zones directly with cheap energy, even though there will still be a little bit of load shedding perhaps in the evenings. But in the daytime, with a few battery packs and the PV, we can do a lot. Thank you. Thank you.
Colleagues, I saw that we didn't really have question time, but I think because it's still such an exciting story, if there are 1 or 2 questions or comments, I'll allow it. I think we have a bit of time. There's one from Amaya and one from our media representative.
No, I just want to commend you. There's a lot of goodwill in South Africa, and it's got to start in our small little places. Thank you. We're going to come there for best practice.
Chris, I admire what you do. I've been following it for quite a long time. Can you just give us an idea in Modimolle Mokgopong what the impact of the change in political balance was on your work after the last local elections?
Without getting involved in politics, and the question, just to give some context, 30 seconds.
No problem.
Municipality, we thought our model is we do it on a concession. Give us a long-term, 10-year, 15-year, 20-year, 25-year. How much money we need to invest to fix? How much money, how much time for us to recover our investment? That determines the period of the concession. Now, obviously, what you don't want to do is invest and then make the user pay for that investment, and now suddenly they pay a lot more than what they would have had to pay previously. Doesn't work. So what did we do in Mafube? It was a long period, long concession period, and every year that NERSA has issued us with a tariff increase, we said to NERSA, sorry, we can't accept this tariff increase. The first time it happened, it was everybody was sitting around the table because look at what private sector is doing. They don't accept our tariff increase, so they want more. So we said to them, no, but we don't want more. We actually just want less. We want 12, I think, or 15% less tariff increase than what you issued, that you awarded to us already. It blew their minds. They couldn't understand it. The municipality was up in arms because the municipality wanted that 15%. That was just more money. They had nothing to do with it other than probably use it for illicit purposes, but they wanted more. And we gave it back to the community. And in that, we had huge political ramifications over many years, because what we do is we invest, we run the concession, the money stays on the network. The money doesn't go somewhere. And we thought, perhaps what we now do, let's change and we give our expertise to a municipality in need. Not on a concession basis. We invest a little bit of money in Modimolle Mokgopong's terms, I think, and Peter sits there behind. I think we committed to about 3 million rand, but we spent about 40 million rand in Modimolle Mokgopong. Huge turnaround. Materials, vehicles, the works. Now, before the political change was merely for the eye blind. There was always not a political change. It's still the same politicians. The fact that there's one mayor from a different party doesn't mean that they can actually change anything. And I think we all know that in this room. That money, unfortunately, everybody started paying, everything performed. What a disaster, because the staff, that heart, the capacity, staff members continued to bypass meters for money. They refused. They took full salary. They're not even at work. No, it's an absolute nightmare because there's no consequence for your action. It's not just in Modimolle Mokgopong. So the honest truth, the people actually got a raw deal. Everybody's paying because they saw things improving, and now it's just another total collapse. So what have we said? Are we going to ever do something like that again? I doubt it. We won't. Either we have the concession, we can implement a long-term fix, benefit the community in a sustainable manner, or not. You know, and we're rather at the or not. Because all this has been for us the last 3 years has been court battles to actually get the municipality to buy material so that we can go and fix community issues.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Sterkte ook vir julle.